Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to today's daily recap. I am Evan Lazarus. I'm filling in for Scott this afternoon. And what a back-to-back 2 days we've seen. The market clearly, taking away all of yesterday's gains. And if you happen to catch my morning call, I talked about, when a trend basically ends or effectively the 21 EMA, and that's this red, moving average you see here. And when it starts to flatten out, which is basically what it's done over the last, month, 4 to 6 weeks of trading, you get a very, very tough, what some would consider a tough trading environment, where it tends to be range bound. And the market clearly, finding support just 3 days ago down at the prior low. And again, finding resistance at previous, market highs before, turning back down. So, it creates this, whipsaw type of trading environment. And you have to be very careful about, and this was kind of the purpose of the morning call, about buying at highs or shorting at lows, because it can be very, very dangerous types of trades. And in an environment where you have this flat 21 EMA, it can stay this way for, who knows, weeks, months. There's no real way for me to look inside my crystal ball and tell you, at some point, will this market ultimately, break higher or break lower. I will tell you, though, that, just from my own personal look around and what I'm seeing happen, I suspect that the market may be setting up for a larger downside, price movement. And, I don't say that without obviously a real reason for it. I'm starting to see, especially in some of the bigger sectors we look at in the banks, I'm starting to see some price deterioration. Here's Goldman. You can see on the heels of that sell-off, last week, a little bounce and then, sellers stepping right in. This overall here is a fairly bearish looking short-term pattern, and I suspect that this could, lead to further downside here against these highs right up today's highs. So I would keep an eye on Goldman. I'd keep an eye on some of the other banks, the J.P. Morgan, as well. Very, very similar looking type of pattern where you have this strong, sell-off, a little, snapback, and then the second the market turns down, this thing resumes. It's selling. So, I think we may have, seen some highs here. Obviously, the banks are still, you can clearly say, the turning points and where the significant levels may be here in the short term. But overall, I see some price deterioration happening in some key spots that I think will be obviously drivers for the market. Obviously, we've covered at length in various times, Google. Google, obviously sitting at lows and not really participating, showing no real strength. Some of the high flyer names, Netflix, Tesla, all showing, sort of a weak hand. On the flip side of that, there's the Walmarts of the world that I referenced this morning and the Home Depots of the world. So, like I said, it is, there are trades on both sides, but I do see more, from my perspective and my vantage point, I do see some more price deterioration happening than I do see breakouts occurring. So this is something that I wanted to bring to everybody's attention. As we go back and we look at the spiders or the S&Ps, let's take a look at the weekly chart because we really do need to look at the bigger picture. And the bigger picture, again, you clearly have the level of resistance. That's a definitive, area that the market, has laid out for us. We have this pivot low down here. Again, this is just a bigger look at what I've already showed you. And I would watch to see, how the market kind of sets up over the next couple of weeks. A couple of inside bars or even, some, I think we may be in for a little bit of volatility here for a few weeks overall before we either, break out of this range to the downside or, resume this, overall macro trend to the upside. I think this is definitely a chart, an area you want to pay very close attention to, over the next couple of weeks. Could it be 1 week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, 5 weeks? Again, time not supplied, but certainly an area that I would want to watch because a break of this area could spell some sort of larger price movement, like I said, to the downside or even potentially to the upside. So we'll keep an eye on banks. We'll keep an eye on the indexes and and biotech. Obviously, biotech. If we look at the IBB, the biotech still on the weekly, still holding this trend, still sitting at or near highs. Here's a daily, but certainly carving out an area of resistance up here. So we'll watch this area next week or into the next few weeks to see if biotech can continue to show its hand to the upside. So that's going to wrap it up.